Hello everybody, patch 8.3, The Visions of N'Zoth is launched for World of Warcraft, and for the first time this entire expansion, I believe the game is actually worth playing. And that's saying a lot because I felt like Legion was the best expansion for the game yet, even though some people disagree and like to go back to Wrath of the Lich King or even before that. But I honestly believe like Legion was the pinnacle of the game so far. And Battle for Azeroth had the potential to push that even further, but really fell flat on its face. It's been pretty bad up until this point. And I do believe, like, if you've been a player of WoW in the past and you are considering playing Shadowlands, like, now is the time to jump in because there's some really cool stuff with this last patch of the expansion. So first and foremost, this patch adds the new raid, which if you're into raids, you kind of can, look forward to that. If you're not into raids, then there's other stuff for you to do. And in particular, they added a new thing called Horrific Visions, which I think is the best content they've added to the game ever. Like that's a really big feat. And most importantly, I think that it's a good sign of things to come for Shadowlands because it is similar to a new thing that they're adding in Shadowlands. This seems to be the first draft of it. And the fact that it is, in my opinion, the best thing that they've added to the game, like I said, bodes very well for Shadowlands. So what are the visions? Well, it's basically a mini dungeon that you could do solo or with a group. You don't have to do it with a group. You could choose to do it solo. And in some cases, for different classes, it's kind of easier to do solo than it is with other people. But it's totally up to you, like how you want to play that. It scales dynamically for whether you're alone or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. So the way you want to handle it is completely up to you. If you have 5 people to play with, go play with those 5 people. If you want to do it solo, like I tend to want to do it, then you get a lot of enjoyment out of that. And essentially, it is a replayable system that you can enter several times a week because you have to buy keys to enter. And these keys come from doing the other content within the patch, which we'll talk about. But you go in and depending on whether you're Alliance or Horde, you either go to a dark future where N'Zoth is corrupted, either Orgrimmar or Stormwind. And when you go there, let's say you're Horde, you go and you try to kill Thrall, who has done weird old goddy things and thinks that supporting the old gods is the only way to save the planet or something like that. I don't know. The story is ridiculous. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is you have to go kill Thrall, and when you do so, you get some stuff at the end. However, it's not that easy. There's some other things going on within the vision. There's different objectives, bonus objectives, that you can go complete for additional rewards at the end of it. And this isn't like a chill thing. This is timed because you have a sanity bar. And the sanity bar slowly ticks down throughout the course of the vision. And if you get hit by any specific kinds of attacks, it will drain your sanity. And different areas of the vision drain sanity faster. And there's ways to prevent this. And the more and more that you do this, the better you're going to get at it. And the more defenses you are going to get at, reducing your sanity. So over the course of time, you'll be able to do harder and harder versions of this and get more and more out of it. But to begin with, it's kind of like playing the start of a roguelike. If you go and play Hades or Undermine or, Dead Cells or any of those kind of games, you're going to get the feeling for what this system is. Initially, you start off and you're going to get stomped on. It's going to happen really quickly. If you're focusing the first time you go in, you can go and kill Thrall pretty much without too much of an issue. But if you go to try to do any of the other stuff, you're just not going to be able to do it. Your sanity is going to go down and you're going to be kicked out. But once you do the first vision, because it's kind of a tutorial system, the first one, and you do take out Thrall, you are given a legendary cloak from Wrathion, and this cloak reduces the amount of sanity that you're losing and gives you corruption resistance, which we'll talk about the corruption thing in a minute. It's kind of it's breaking the community apart whether they like it or not, and it's very divisive, but at the same time it's a new gearing system, but we'll talk about that later. So you get this cloak, gives you corruption resistance and reduces the amount of sanity you lose in this thing. And you get to progressively upgrade this cloak through doing the horrific visions, which increases the stats and stuff on it, but also, you know, allows you to do more of the horrific vision. On top of that, you're gaining these like little mementos as you're doing the visions, and these can be used to upgrade like basically a skill tree within the vision that gives you different bonuses, like you deal more damage, or now you can find different chests in different areas of the vision, or, you know, even on top of that, you can like go and get different resistances, or you get like a save from death where if you die, you go back to, you know, full health, or a portion of your health with 500 sanity out of your total of 1,000. So, you know, there's like different upgrades you can get, and each time you go through, you're going to be getting these things. So you're slowly being able to progress further and further into the visions. The more bonus objectives you complete in the vision, the more chests you get at the end, and these give you gear and a bunch of other cool upgrades. And of course, you want to make sure that you're killing Thrall every time, or I think it's not Valera, it's whatever the stupid Void Elf chick is on the Alliance. Look, I don't play Alliance. Don't judge me. You kill her and you get the cloak upgrade. So you want to do that every single time. But it's just the process of learning where things are at, the most optimal path for you to take. And if you're jumping into the system without looking at anything, I think that's the best way to do it. Don't look at any guides. Just know that you have to kill the boss every time, or you should be killing the boss every time so you don't fall behind on your cloak upgrades. But at the end of the day, going in blind is the best way to do this, because it's like playing, you know, one of those roguelike games where you're going through and you're learning as you go, and it's really freaking fun to jump in and progress in it, because you do feel like you're getting better every time because of the rewards you're getting, and just because of the knowledge you're getting of how things work and the different like abilities that everything has. Oh, and also the bonus objectives that you finish. When you finish a bonus objective, it gives the end boss a new ability. So, you know, you can kill like Thrall, for instance, right off the bat, and he's pretty easy. But if you clear a couple bonus objectives, he's going to get a couple extra abilities, and it does make that fight significantly harder. So it is, like I said, a really cool system that is best done by going in completely blind. And the reason I feel like this is a solid system is not only does it play well, it rewards you well, and it is just a lot of fun to go and learn how the system works. What I was saying earlier is that Shadowlands has a similar system coming to the game, maybe a little bit more fleshed out. We're not quite sure yet. We didn't get to see it at BlizzCon, but we kind of got an idea or gist of what they were going for. And it is Torghast, which is the Tower of the Damned, I think is what they call it. Now, the differences between the Vision and Torghast is that Torghast is a ever-changing dungeon. So anytime that you go into Torghast, kind of like you would in a roguelike game that I've given examples of, the dungeon changes. It's going to be different every time. So unlike that, you know, in the Visions, where you can go and learn an optimal route for you or your party or your character and, you know, really get better as you go through that, you're going to have to play a lot more on your feet with Torghast. But the system of it seems to be very similar in gameplay as the Visions. And I think that that is really promising, because if Torghast is as good as the horrific Visions or better, that means I'm going to have a lot of fun on Shadowlands, even if some of the other content in the game isn't that great. But, you know, when you look at Battle for Azeroth as a whole, the raids have been fantastic. The dungeons have been really good. And the thing that really held the game back was the Azerite system, the Heart of Azeroth, and even the essences that they added in the previous patch. Like, that content, while it was good on paper, in reality with the gameplay, it was hyper alt unfriendly, and it made it so that people who wanted to jump in midway through expansion were super far behind, and that was not good at all. Whereas with Legion, they had the same catch-up mechanic for Azerite power that they do in Battle for Azeroth, but it just played differently, where new players could jump in and catch up quickly and be able to play the different alts. And in fact, in Legion, you were encouraged to, because each of the different classes had their own class story and their own unique weapons, and each of these weapons that you could go and unlock. And then at the end of the expansion, you had the Mage Tower that you can go like master your class with. I thought that stuff was really good, and Legion set the bar for that, which meant that when Battle for Azeroth came around, it, you know, fell a little short and was way less exciting than it should have been. But, you know, if you take the Visions system and you put it into this new Torghast, which is coming out with the next expansion, then maybe, you know, that sets up a pretty good base of stuff to do. At least, you know, even if the rest of the expansion is bad, you can have replayable content that you're enjoying. And I think that's really, really important, especially in an MMO. And if this kind of stuff sounds really interesting to you and you haven't played WoW in a while, or maybe you're wanting to jump in for the first time, I do want to quickly remind you that if you have a WoW subscription, you also get to play WoW Classic, which means that you can go in and play vanilla WoW if you never got to do that. And as many people will complain about original WoW, it was still a really solid game. It's way different than anything we have today, so I think it's worth going and trying that. But if you're new or returning, I do have a recruiter friend link that I could add in, which gives you certain bonuses, and you can come and play with me at any point, and I can even summon you to specific spots just because you're on recruiter friend. And of course, I get a bunch of rewards for that as well. So that link is in the description and in the comments. Hit that up. Otherwise, you know, don't really worry about it. Just jump in and play the game, because like I said, I think now is the best time to play, especially with the new expansion coming up. And while this patch added the new raid and the horrific visions, it also added a bunch of other stuff that you're able to do, such as the Black Empire campaign, which is the questline that leads up to being able to do the horrific visions. That's about a 2-hour set of quests, which is a lot more content than you might imagine for just a content patch, because in the past they would release a content patch and you would have maybe 20 minutes to 30 minutes of content to do, or sometimes they would space that out like over the course of several weeks. Well, they don't do that here. It's just like, here's your 2 hours of quests, which are all really solid. Go and enjoy them. And that's, you know, cool for people who are returning to the game and have been playing for Battle for Azeroth. But if you're just joining in on Battle for Azeroth, you have the rest of the expansion too, so don't worry about that. But of course, you get the legendary cloak. You have corrupted gear, which again, I'm going to touch on in a minute. You have the new allied races, so you have the Vulpera, which are cool little fox people, and the mecha gnomes. So if you want to be like a Cybertronic gnome, you could do that. Then there is a bunch of new catch-up gear if you're returning to the game that you could put on and be, you know, up to date, at least on gear. There's new pet battle stuff if you're interested in that, and you can now transmogrify items to existing legendaries if you have them. So that's cool. And if you pre-ordered Battle or Shadowlands, you can play any of the allied races as a Death Knight. So like, you know, allied races such as the Zandalari or the Vulpera, and even the Pandaren can now be Death Knights, which is really freaking cool. So there's a lot of stuff to do within the patch. So it's not like you're just jumping in to do horrific visions, and you get to play around with this new cool but divisive gear system called the corrupted gear. So in the past, at least for the past couple expansions, you would be playing around, you get a new piece of gear, and it had a chance to Titan Forge, which meant that its item level went up, its base stats on it went up, and that would just be a chance anytime that you got a new piece of gear, it could Titan Forge. They got rid of that, and now you have a chance, because it's, you know, thematic to this patch, you have a chance for your gear to be corrupted. This adds a really powerful effect to your gear. It doesn't increase the item level, but it does definitely increase the gear power level, because, you know, you're getting these really powerful effects on it. But at the same time, you may get these powerful effects, but you also get some massive drawbacks, and you get corruption stacking up on your character. The more corruption you have, the worse it gets. So at first, it's just like a tentacle will hit you and slow you down when you're in combat, you know, every now and again. Then it starts getting worse, where it's like a giant eyeball will come and attack an area, and if you're standing in it, you take, you know, perpetual damage, and it gets more and more, so you got to move out of it. And then there's just more and more effects that keep stacking up until you get to 100 corruption, where you really don't want to be using 100 corruption, but you could if you want to take the chance. Your healers are going to hate you, or if you're a healer, your other healers and your other friends are going to hate you. It's not good to be running 100 corruption, but it's possible. You can also cleanse gear optionally if you want to. It'll remove the corruption effect on it, but then you're kind of losing the future power of that item, because you can, through the use of the cloak, gain corruption resistance, and also through the essence systems, you can gain a few bits of corruption resistance here and there, which reduces the max amount of corruption you're getting from items. This means that throughout the course of this patch, you're going to be able to wear more and more corrupted items on your character, and that will give you increased power throughout the patch. It's like a catch-up system almost, where some guilds at the beginning of this patch are going to be able to go and clear Mythic N'Zoth like right off the bat, but as you slowly get that more corruption resistance throughout the life cycle of the patch, you're going to become more powerful, and then the not as skilled players are going to be able to go and do the same thing. I think you get the gist of it. So throughout the content or the cycle of the patch, you're going to be getting these huge upgrades on character power just by being able to wear more corrupted gear. Some people really don't like this system. They think that it's worse Titan forging, but other people think it's really awesome. I tend to land on the really awesome state, but you got to remember, I like playing action RPGs like Diablo, and interesting gearing choices are always fun for me. So when it comes to the corrupted gear, I freaking love it. I think it's really cool and interesting, and it's only going to be here for this patch. They're not going to do it in the next expansion. So, why not enjoy the cool effects as it is right now, even if some of them are massively imbalanced and they need to fix that before the raid comes out, or hopefully they will. At the end of the day, though, it's cool and interesting and thematic for the patch, and they've at least got that going for it. But like I said earlier, whether you're returning to the game or a completely new player, now is the best time to be playing World of Warcraft. For your subscription cost, you get this game that has a bunch of content in it, and then you also get WoW Classic, which is totally worth going and playing as well. And unfortunately, the best system that they've added to the game happens to be in a bad expansion. But fortunately, you can ignore the rest of that expansion's content for the most part. Just get up to the point where you're able to do the horrific visions and then just have fun with those. And in my opinion, that's a perfectly okay way to play the rest of this expansion out until Shadowlands. And then you jump into Shadowlands, you get to go play Torghast. But again, keep this in mind. This is coming from somebody who really enjoys roguelike games, Hades or Undermine or Binding of Isaac or even, Dead Cells. Like those kind of games really speak to me where they may not for you. So if you know that you don't like those kind of games, you don't like that kind of content, then maybe avoid the horrific visions, right? Because they may not be for you. Maybe they are, though. You never know. Try them anyways. But if you know that you're into that kind of stuff, then this is like legitimately a really good patch for you. There's some awesome content here. And like I said, it's gonna bode well if they can do the same thing for Torghast and that system. We'll see how it ends up playing out. It may be completely different, and hopefully we should see within the next couple months when the Shadowlands beta eventually boots up and we can jump into the new expansion and see what they got planned for that. But again, go use the recruiter friend link in the description or in the comments. And that happens to be whether you're a returning player after a while or a new player, because, that means that you can join in, you can play with me and the guild, and you can even join our community and have people to play with immediately if you don't have people right away. And of course, your subscription cost comes with WoW Classic, which totally worth playing on its own. Definitely a unique experience to go back into the history of games and see what really changed the genre for, I would say, the better over the long run. But WoW Classic it's classic for a reason. It's the reason why a lot of MMOs are the way they are. And it's freaking fantastic. So you could do either or and really get your money's worth at this point in time in WoW's history. With all of that being said, I'm just so freaking happy to have something positive to say about WoW that isn't necessarily about WoW Classic at the moment, because this last couple patches, man, I've been struggling to stay interested in Battle for Azeroth, and this has locked me in. I'm like, this is fun. I want to keep doing this. And it's that replayable content that really gets me. I think I like farming stuff, whether it be in action RPGs or not. But in this case, like, this system is perfect for me, and I really, really, really enjoy it. So I will be playing a bunch of it in the coming months, and I'm really looking forward to clearing the raid and seeing what Shadowlands has for us for sure. So if you're interested, again, in jumping back into WoW, make sure you use the recruiter friend link. And if you don't, that's cool too. You can still hit us up and find the OSWguild community. It's on the community finder for North America. But if you have a group of friends to play with, then, don't worry about it. With all of that being said, though, we shall see you guys next time.